Aloha, Soul Dr. Nick here, and today I want to talk about how I healed from my lifelong asthma. I'd been asked about this recently from some friends, and I realized I'd never fully gotten into it, even for myself. And the short version is I had asthma until I was 38 years old, taking medications almost every day. And from that day forward, I've taken 0 asthma medications, essentially. And now it's been 6 years, and life has never been better in terms of the health aspect. I want to go through the longer part because I want to share with you my journey, and hopefully parts of it resonate with you and guide you towards your own healing path. And remember that what I did isn't the right way. In fact, today I may even be coughing. I've had a little bit of a cold, if you want to call it that, recently, and it's been clearing up more mucus, and it's been fantastic. But I want to take you back so you can hear the origin story of it and see what there is for you. So I am now 44 years old. I used to be a medical doctor. I grew up with doctors. My dad's a pediatrician, fantastic, and I'm so grateful because he helped me get to this place and be alive. And everything I say about the past, it may seem sometimes like it's a criticism, but it's not. It led me to here. So when I was 5 years old, that's when I was kind of diagnosed with asthma. We were at a hotel, and there's duck down feather pillows, and I started coughing, and then it was so much so that they started doing some tests and then realized, the inhaled steroids really helped, so that was really good. And so I've been on medications ever since then. I rebelled several times during my kind of younger years. I didn't want to take them anymore, so I had multiple courses of oral steroids as well. I had multiple courses of antibiotics. Almost every year I get a sinus infection or something else like that. You need antibiotics to clear it. So I knew all the different antibiotics. I knew the rescue inhalers. I knew the steroid inhalers. I knew the combo inhalers. I knew Singulair, the oral medication as well. And so by the time I was 38, I was on 5 different medications almost every single day. Before I was 5, I even had multiple infections as well. And so there's lots of things going in my life. I had every single vaccination that you could think of because we thought it was going to be helpful. And I thought this is going to be my life forever. I was always joking that I was going the one with the weak lungs. Like, if someone's going to get sick, it's going to be me. Most likely you're not going to get sick from it. But that was the case that it was. I was in my final year of pediatrics residency in 2010 when I burned out. And when I burned out, my blood pressure was 150 over 110. I weighed about 100 pounds. And I had this idea that if I kept going down this route, I'd probably be pretty good at what I did, but I'd be dead in 10 to 15 years. So I'm grateful I burned out. I dropped out. Went into work for Apple as a genius, and then worked in the pharmaceutical world as a medical scientist. And then when I burned out of those things, I took a year off, and then I became a life coach. I went through a life coaching program. And near the end of the program, my coach at the time, her name was Darren, heard about me talking about this book because I'd heard about this book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate, and I thought it was interesting, but I couldn't find it. So I found another book that he had written, When the Body Says No, The Hidden Cost of Stress, and I started reading that, and it was interesting. Hearing about people who had chronic diseases who were able to heal from the stress of it. And she actually bought me a copy of it, and I read it, and it was the first time I had the possible inkling that, wait a second, this might actually be able to be healed. And at that time, I started exploring some more esoteric healers, one who was a PhD before, and she said, I think it might be possible for you to heal from this. And I thought, no, it's not possible. And so I went to this retreat. And I won't get into the specifics, but a medicine retreat, and one of my intentions was to heal from this. I didn't think much, I didn't think it was possible. And during that ceremony, it took me all the way back to my childbirth, and I'd forgotten in some ways that my parents had a child before me. He died at 2 months of age, and there was so much grief, anxiety, sadness, fear, blame, all the other emotions that were there. And I'm so grateful they decided to conceive me and have me as well. And there's many parts of that story, but that's for another time. And I recognize as a sensitive young soul, I took on this grief. They didn't have the same support structures that we do now. And so that grief was living in my lungs as the story that I had, that I felt. And as I was letting go of that, then it felt like I could breathe again. And they'd invited me to stop taking my medications 3 days before the ceremony. I said, I can't. I'll try one day before. And after the ceremony, I decided, okay, I'm going to try not taking them and see how long this can go on for, see what has actually shifted. And it was just one day at a time. The other thing I decided coming out of the ceremony was I was going to stop drinking alcohol, because I knew the alcohol caused me to cough and have inflammation. So I thought, let's give myself a better chance and see how that goes too. And to give you context, about a year or two before, we had been in the Okanagan. We'd bought like 69 bottles of wine over a 3-day span because it was just such a good deal, it felt like, and we loved that aspect of our lives. And to give you more context, before that I just started, I think, transcendental meditation. So I started a practice where I was meditating regularly. And then I also had this amazing tool that I'd found from a Tony Robbins conference called Newcom, which was a audio meditation device that helped you relax more. Binaural beats, all that stuff. So there's lots of different modalities I was playing with and doing on a regular basis. And that's a piece I forget. I was doing all these things on a regular basis, and I had the time. Every day I was going through this. I was also getting life coaching and being a life coach as well. So going through my stuff, processing, unpacking, integrating all these things. And one day led to two, led to a month, led to 2 months, led to 3 months, led to 6 months, led to a year. It's like, I haven't taken any of my asthma medications for a year. And again, to give you context beforehand, I'd done a pulmonary function test recently before that, where my lungs were probably about, I think, 70% of normal. And I thought it's just going to keep going downhill. And every year up to that point, I've been taking probably about 2 courses of antibiotics every year, oral antibiotics. And I realized the year after, it's like I've taken 0 antibiotics. I hadn't gotten sick at all. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get sick again. I've got iron lungs. And then it was 2 years afterwards that I did my breath work course as well. I felt so good in breathing, and I'd been through a few breath sessions with my Samurai Brotherhood, my men's group, that I wanted to actually learn how to lead breath. And so I actually took 2 weeks and actually learned how to lead breath. It's like, wow, I can breathe like this as well. And there's so many little pieces I'm forgetting right now. And that's okay. It's not about every single detail, but it's seeing how they layered upon each other. And I was in the ceremonial space. I was getting guidance. I was getting teaching from my teachers, Yvonne and Lana Rados at Internaut, and continue to move through things, continue to move through not just my grief, but other people's grief. And then after I did my breathwork course, there was this presence process that we did, which is 10 weeks of breathing twice a day, every day. And because I had the time, the ability, I did that every day. That was the beginning of the pandemic. So everything was shut down. That was the beginning of our son's pregnancy as well, so everything was shut down. So I was breathing at least 2 hours every single day. Going through all these processes, letting go of stuff over and over again. And then 1 year became 2 years, became 3 years, became 4 years. And I remember sometime during the first or second year, there was a period I was sick in the winter. My parents came and they were like, you're coughing so much, maybe you should take one of your puffers. I was like, no. I was like, completely no. And then it was on one of the last days, I was like, why am I saying no to this thing? It doesn't mean that I'm going to be using this forever. And so I took it, I think, once. And it helped. And it reminded me I have this access point. I'm so grateful for these Western medicines that they're there when I need them. And then I started noticing different foods. I love eating fried chicken, but after about the first piece, I start coughing. And so it helps to guide me. And I realize these lungs are my early detection signs. When am I doing something I don't really need to do for my body and I can still choose to do? Eating chips, eating a lot of sugar. And so now I have this ability to be able to say, I get to choose. And am I going to ignore it? Am I going to listen to it? And sometimes I choose one or the other. And it helps me as well to get clear when I'm working with clients. Oh my God, I'm starting to cough. What is going on there? And it gives me a sign I can actually talk to them about things. And so now I'm still doing things every single day. Now, for the last year, I've done an enema every day, at least one, a coffee enema. And it's been brilliant. I'd heard about it over a decade ago, but it took until a couple of years ago hearing from Dr. Kelly Brogan when I was with Aubrey Marcus and crew. I was like, oh, okay. And then we did the Vital Mind Reset, and I did that. And I was like, wow. And I can feel the inflammation dropping. But I'm reminding myself, just because I've got all these tools to feel better doesn't mean I put more crap in the body. How do I keep noticing, releasing, and feeling better? Because more vitality, more aliveness, more energy. And it brought me to here now, because for a while I've been telling people, oh my God, I had this ceremony, I had asthma before, I didn't afterwards. And I realized I was making it so simple And also making it external, like it was as if it was someone else healed me. And more I remind people, you are your own medicine, you are your own healing. I'm assisting you, I'm guiding you in finding your own healing, but I'm not healing you. And that was part of what I learned from Yvonne Rados as well. And so this is the tweak that I want to put. The ceremony definitely had the major shift there. The major shift of actually letting go of that grief and then continue to realize other edges of the grief. It's not like it's always gone. It's not like I'm not going to find other layers of it. And nowadays, when I'm with my parents, for example, I can notice their grief, not try to change it, fade it, or fix it. It's not my responsibility, and it's not mine to judge them for having some. I can't imagine what they went through. And I keep saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. They're still together. How many families fall apart after something like this happens? And they chose not only to stay together, but to have me as well, and to continue doing so much work. My dad's a pediatrician still, and how many people has he counseled and helped because of this grief? And then for me, for the asthma, recognizing it probably didn't need to take this long. I mean, I went from 5 to 38. I probably didn't need to take that long, but it took me that long because the belief was so strong that was there. And I remind people, if you can not just believe that it's possible, but let go of the active disbelief that it's impossible. Because that's what the book did for me when I read When the Body Says No. I let go of the active disbelief that it was impossible. It didn't mean I truly thought it was possible. It's only now, as I'm doing work now, that I realize everything is totally possible. You can shift it in an instant. But we're attached to it too. I didn't know who I'd be without the asthma, without the lungs that were like that. Because in a way, too, as an excuse, I didn't like cigarette smoke, so I could blame people if they had cigarette smoke around me. I didn't want to do all that exercise to get out all the time. I wanted whatever reason. Here's the other thing. The only way I knew then to stop working for a bit and take a break was to be sick. So getting sick regularly was like my break. It was like a vacation from life. Especially when I was in medical school and residency. Every now and then I get sick, I'd make myself sick so that I could actually take a break. And it was only in the last few years I realized, wait a second, I'm going to take a break whenever I damn well please. Because then I can repattern, reprogram. I love to take breaks when I'm feeling healthy. People ask, why are you taking a nap? I was like, because I want to. Because I want to. Even today, I've got some time to myself. My son's off at forced preschool. I'm like, maybe I'll just take it easy. And I recognize I really wanted to film this and share this because it's sharing it for you and then sharing it for me again. Because there's so much more here now. There's different layers of vitality. And here's the other thing now. When I get sick now, because that started a couple years ago, at first I thought, oh my God, how did I fail? How did I screw up so bad? And now I realize when I get sick, it's like, oh, my lungs just want to clear another layer of stuff. I'm like, oh, this is so good to get this mucus out. And the things I used to attribute like as inevitable, oh, the mucus has turned yellow. Oh, it's gotten thick. I'm going to get sick and need antibiotics. It's not the case. I continue to listen to the body, take it easy. Everything is cancelable. I cancel all the appointments because like, I don't need to try to be there for someone else. Well, the number one thing is to learn about my body here. And then when I get into a feverish state, I actually drive the fever up. I'm like, oh, this is so good. Let's stay under the blankets. Let's drive it up. I've gotten over 39, almost to 40 degrees. I'm like, this is what the body's wanting. It's wanting to be in this feverish state to change the physiology, to change things. And how often do we get to do that? And so I actually feel a little sad when it goes away. I'm like, oh no, I know stuff's getting trapped that I can't get out as easily. And that's okay. It's going to keep changing. It's another layer. It's another upgrade if we want to talk about it that way. And so what next? What next is continue to listen to the body. Continue to notice. I'm reading more and more, but I'm also reminding there's no real answers. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to be fixed. I'm really loving listening to Michael Singer these days. He's reminding us that everyone wants more techniques, and he's like, it's just the art of letting go. Can we notice that we want something that we don't get and get upset, or that we don't want something and we get upset? And my son helps remind me of this. He's like, I don't want something, I've got a tantrum. I'm like, oh, I do the same thing. How do I just let it go and just be? And then I'm loving learning from some really wise, skilled practitioners, letting them work with my body to notice what my body is talking to them. And I am still working on listening to my body better. This is the goal for me, is to really hear my body, mind, soul, and to hear that part underneath it. Because I'm an infinite being having a human experience. And this human experience thing's going to change. So, Soul Dr. Nick here. Thank you, Ohana. Healed from my asthma of 38 years. Came to this place. Everything led up to that point. That healing, I realized, was not just for me, to give evidence for me so that I could actually be who I need to be for others. Because now I not only have let go of the active disbelief, but believe that with energy, with intention, with the medicine, with the breath, with all these modalities, everything is possible. And continuing to do things. So right now, I've got this special helmet that has different therapy. I've got this special Roxevalite that has therapy. I have different music that I use. There's so many techniques. And not to get hooked on any one either. So that's the thing too. I'm not hooked on any supplements or anything else. It's like, if I don't get it, I don't get it. How do I keep listening to my body, see what it actually wants? And the last piece I forgot is nutrition. So important. I'm so grateful I married a dietitian who let go of being a dietitian so that she can actually look at what nutrition works well for me. And so we get as much whole foods. We work with farmers who do biodynamic farming. We care about the meat that we get, so that comes from animals that who've hopefully lived the best life they possibly can, because we're actually absorbing their energy. We're looking at how do we get out of all the toxic milieu that we're in, whether it's EMFs, whether it's plastics, whether it's the PFAS, the forever chemicals. We're trying to get out of the city in a better air repeatedly. We have our windows open all the time, because I used to close them all the time to try to save money on electricity. All these things. And I'm reminding myself, instead of buying more things, how do I actually spend money on experiences, on nutrition, on activities, on modalities, on healing? So there's so many possibilities. Thank you for listening. This is just the beginning. I'm going to create some more long form videos. If you like it, please comment, share what you're noticing. It gives us inspiration to do more. And know that I'm partnering with a couple people to create clips, to share things, to really get more message out there. Because I love doing deep personal work, and I'm trying to impact a wider audience as I can. Because let's have more fun. Let's just have more fun. Ciao for now.